to cover, and I hope that you can help me to get through all of the items because we really have to cover them all today in the next 3 hours. So first, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance and take public comment, and then we will head into closed session. So after closed session, we'll return to open session and pick up with item number 2 on our agenda. So with that, let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, great. Do we have any public comments?
No, Chair, I don't see any hands. Oh, I apologize. I do see one hand. For members of the public, reminder that this is public comment on the closed session items. Is that right, John?
We have both non-agenda public comments and public comments after that will be for closed session, Francesca.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that clarification. So this will be non-agenda public comments. Miguel Aguirre, I see your hand raised. You can unmute yourself and speak when you're ready.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. My name is Miguel Aguirre, managing member of Grand Central West in San Isidro. Since 2003, we've owned the private two-story landmark known as the McDonald's Trolley Station, the heart of the Intermodal Transportation Center. Here, SANDAG plans major redevelopment and expansion to include an entire community block. As a binational corridor linking employment hubs, please consider these 3 items of regional significance: a bold border policy, social and environmental equality and justice, and strategic binational gateways. Design narratives surrounding SANDAG's project ultimately will be reduced to 2 simple views: border as destination, or a departure project sustaining U.S. economies to the north, away from the cross-border itself, where binational energy is greatest. Departure stations are what operate on our border today. As co-chair of the South County EDC's binational committee, also as founder and CEO of the Border Fusion Group, we could share all day about a strategic platform and cross-border smart growth land use ideas. Please Google our website, Border Fusion Group. Secondly, it is no secret that for years, the community of San Isidro has been viewed by many as a poster stepchild to the city of San Diego. 3 freeways and rail right-of-ways impact health, quiet enjoyment, and property rights. Some have even had access to public ways and economic opportunity blocked in order to protect large corporate and special interests. Poor air quality and chaotic mobility caused by the world's busiest border crossing only worsens as vehicle infrastructure is expanded. We could debate how torturous treatment and economic oppression have plagued San Isidro's businesses for decades. Indeed, social and environmental equality and justice are long overdue. Fortunately, San Isidro is poised to finally play a vital role in a competitive North American trade context. The U.S. absolutely needs Mexico to compete with China, and strategic cross-border districts bridge socioeconomic disparity. Finally, SANDAG renderings of a future San Isidro project suggest iconic background elements, yet still depict front and center at-grade trolley expansion, which would simply exacerbate chronic mobility conflicts. Understood, it's just a concept. However, imagine active design planning connecting to above-grade pedestrian bridges and ramps such as we already have, including rail operations into Mexico. Imagine also a future high-speed subway next to a subterranean long-haul centralized bus station, protecting travelers from illegal transportation providers known as wildcats. Subterranean and above-grade infrastructure segregating safe paths of travel would catalyze private investment, high-value innovation, and technology and creative industries. By necessity,
Chair, I don't see any other hands from the public.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for the public comment. So we do have a couple of announcements. First, I want to thank those board members that joined us last week for the member orientation. We had a great conversation during the priorities and milestones session and heard great feedback from the other discussions. Secondly, the ITAC, which is TransNet Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee, is looking to fill one vacancy on its 7-member committee. It's for a professional with demonstrated experience of 10 years or more in the management of large-scale construction projects. Individuals interested in applying can obtain details regarding ITAC member responsibilities and an application by contacting SANDAG or visiting the SANDAG website. The applications are due to SANDAG by February 26, 2021. So unless there are any other member comments, let me see.
Yes,
I
Chair
see
Boyd.
Mayor Salas has your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to thank SANDAG. Yes, Wednesday we had the opening of our 3rd Avenue streetscape, the completion of a project that began in 2012, and it was a $14.1 million project. It was partially funded by SANDAG, TransNet, the City of Chula Vista, and our 3rd Avenue Village Association. So I wanted to thank Julie Wiley and other SANDAG staff for being there at the ribbon cutting, and the project turned out beautifully. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other member comments, we will ask if we have any public comments on closed session items.
Thank you, Chair. I don't see any hands.
Okay. So now we will go to our closed session. So for our board members, we have to log out of this meeting and join the separate link that you received. So I received it yesterday from Clerk of the Board, if you need to search for that link. And we will jump over to closed session now. So thank you very much. So if the clerk could please let me know when we have a quorum, then we can get back started.
Thank you, Chair. I'm checking on that right now, and I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Francesca, I believe we have quorum now.
Okay, well, if we have a quorum, that's great. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I will ask Mr. John Kirk, our attorney, to give the report out from closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. On item 15, the board was, a briefing was provided. There is no reportable action on that. On item 16, the board authorized by unanimous vote settlement of the referenced litigation, resulting in a total settlement to be paid of $705,000 to resolve the referenced litigation. And on item 17, no briefing was provided.
Okay, thank you. So next we go to our agenda, our regular agenda, back to item number 2. This is the Policy Advisory Committee Chair's report. Do we have any comments from our PAC chairs? If you do have any comment, please put your hand up. I'm not seeing any, so let's move to the next item, which is our Executive Director's report. Hassan?
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm going to be very brief because of time here. I just want to share with the Board of Directors. I was proud this week to see Southern California Leadership Council, chaired by former governors, Governor Gray Davis, welcome our mayor, Todd Gloria. He needed no introduction. He hit the ground running by outlining San Diego's region priorities, and I am really proud of him, proud to be there to hear the accolades that he got from the governor and the CEOs throughout Southern California, and look forward to working with that group for the betterment of our region. And I also want to thank Chair Blakespear, where on Monday she joined North County Transit District Chair Tony Krantz and U.S. Congressman Mike Levin to celebrate the new locomotives North County Transit. These locomotives were paid for by SANDAG, $58.8 million, and additional SP funds. We're glad that that this was, and also reminding the board that there is a great deal of celebration happening over the next year for the Mid-Coast. I hope you will share with us. And finally, there is a deadline of March 5th for you to apply for what we call a Shared Street Fund 2.0. We have $60,000 available. Each jurisdiction can apply for $5,000. For the sake of time, I'm going to cut the report short. Back to you, Mayor Blakespear.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments?
No, Chair, I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, great. Then let's go to our consent agenda. And if we have any comments on that, public or board member? Yes?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to pull item number 6.
Okay, I will entertain a motion on the balance.
Move to approve. Sotelo Solis move to approve items 4 through 8 with item 6 being pulled.
Second, Mayor Raquel Vasquez.
Thank you very much. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall. I'll come back to Mayor Hall. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas. Oh, thank you, Mayor Hall.
Aye.
Mayor Salas.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey. City of Coronado is absent. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer. I'll come back. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
Thank you. The City of Imperial Beach is absent. The City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Huebner.
Ebner, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. And for the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
Thank you. And for the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Francesca, do we have the alternate, the County B, available?
Supervisor Anderson, would you like to say your vote for that? Thank you very much. And that does pass unanimously.
Okay.
Oh, I apologize, with those members present.
Thank you. So let's go to the pulled item from Mayor Salas.
Yes, thank you. So I just had a couple of questions on the item. And so we're being asked to transfer $2.6 million of the SR 125 toll revenue into the project. And it's my understanding that this is a separate enterprise from the Border Dynamic Toll Road that that SR 11 will be. So that is what I wanted to know. Question number one was the rationale to do that. And then secondly, how was it determined that $2.6 million from the SR 120 become realized? Staff could answer that for me.
Mayor Salas, this is Mario Orso, the Corridor Director. Nice seeing you. I can address this item to you. First of all, let me go back a little bit in history. When the franchise agreement for the 125 had several commitments, about $137 million for the commitments that weren't realized many years ago. As we began SR 11 and 125, we saw that there was a synergy and we moved forward in creating a corridor. Basically, the 125 and the 11 were considered a corridor project. In order to do that and to move the project forward, we thought about always doing standalone projects that would bring benefit, immediate benefit. And the port of entry, we would to go and build the port of entry at the beginning without all the complement benefits, they weren't going to be there. So by connecting the performance metrics of the SR 11 Otay Mesa East to 125, we were successful in bringing in or saving the 125 about $110 million of the total 137 commitments for the connectors. That has been realized, and those funds that the SR 125 put in $28 million to match that 110 million commitments. So those projects are the ongoing construction jobs right now. Now, fast forward right now, the corridor submitted an application for TCEP for $42.5 million for SR 11 Otay Mesa East to bring in utilities and some design functions. In order for us to receive the $42.5 million the CTC has offered in December to us, we needed to put in a required $2.6 million. Within the project, since 3 years, those funds, the 125 funds have been there. We had them on a risk register. The risk register on the ongoing projects, meaning those risks have not materialized. So we've now moved forward and shown to the CTC or are proposing that those 2.6 can be the match for the $42.5 million. I don't know if I confused you or I gave you the answer you wanted, but it's basically leveraging funds to bring in, at this time, a 16-to-1 return. And this funds, part of this funds are actually double matching because this funds saved the 125, $110 million of future or of commitments that the 125 would have had. So that's my explanation. I don't know if I answered you totally.
Well, you're right, because it's really a complex deal, and so it's still unclear to me. But what I'd like, Mario, if you could get with our staff and give a further explanation to them. I know they're confused as well. So I just want to make sure that our regional share of this project, if it's it's not exclusively from the SR 125, from what I'm hearing your explanation to be. But I'm still a little confused about the risk that had not been realized. And then if the risk is not realized, is there any chance of any of that money being plowed back into the SR 125 so that we can get it back, so that we could get that road paid off sooner?
When the projects are finished and we do the closeouts and we have remaining funds, based on the proportionality those funds were put in as match, they go back to their original source. So most probably there may be savings if nothing major happens, and they will go to the original sources, let it be state sources, local sources. In the case of local sources, you, the board, decide what to do with the money that goes back and how to deal with that.
Okay, let's try to move forward on this item, and maybe we can have more discussion offline with the staff, as Mayor Salas suggested.
Because I still have some outstanding questions, but I don't want to take inordinate time because there's more to this item than just that one section. Thank you.
Okay, so the Transportation Committee had recommended board approval and this amendment to the 2021 program budget. So does anybody want to make a motion one way or the other?
I've moved to approve with pending that Mayor Garcia Salas gets a briefing, for clarity. Since it was on the consent, I do move approval. However, I really think it's imperative that she get clarity on her questions. And if it needs to come back as an item, for change, that we entertain that. But right now, since it is, one last question before I finish my breath on that. Is there a time sensitive matter or
Yes, Mayor, and I will commit to Mayor Salas that we will get with her staff and talk about this. There is a time sensitive, and I don't want this money to be lost. We worked really hard to get $46 million from the CTC. So absolutely, we'll get with Mayor Salas and her staff and clarify all the issues.
Great, then I move approval of item 6.
And I will second that, and thank you, Mayor Sotelo Solis, for your support.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
Thank you. The City of Imperial Beach is absent. For the City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you, and that passes unanimously with those members present.
Okay, thank you. So next is item 9, which is a recommendation from the Executive Committee that we amend the bylaws to allow for the reinstatement of the second vice chair position and to modify our election schedule. So I will do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Chair, I don't see any hands.
Okay, so we'll hand it over to Amberlyn for the report.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. I'm Amber Lynn Deaton, Deputy General Counsel for SANDAG, and I'm here today to discuss proposed amendments to the SANDAG bylaws and board policies. At its January 22nd meeting, the board directed staff to prepare proposed amendments that would reestablish the second vice chair position. At a prior meeting, staff also was requested to propose modifications to the procedures for the election of board officers. The executive committee considered the same item at its meeting this morning and recommended in a 5-to-1 vote that the board adopt the proposed amendments. The language implementing these proposed amendments is reflected in red line in the attachment to your report, which begins at page 33 of the agenda packet. If you happen to download the agenda earlier today, I understand the online version was not displaying in color, but that issue has now been resolved and we apologize for the inconvenience. In order to reestablish the second vice chair position, the proposed amendments restore language that was added by the board in 2015 and subsequently removed by the board in 2017. For reference, the current bylaws allow for the PAC chairs to perform the role of chair in the absence of both the chair and the vice chair. The proposed amendments would allow the second vice chair to perform that function instead and would establish the second vice chair as a voting member of the executive committee. Additional amendments to the bylaws are proposed to move the officer election cycle to January following an even numbered election year. Those proposed amendments begin on page 39 of your agenda packet. The current bylaws provide for elections to be held in or around December following an election, effectively allowing the outgoing board to select the officers for the next term. The proposed changes would significantly streamline the election procedures in order to allow for elections to take place at the first meeting in January following an election, thereby allowing the newly constituted board to select its officers. The proposed amendments to the bylaws eliminate the application and nominating committee process. All nominations would come from the floor on the day of the election, thereby expediting the seating of the new officers. This concludes a brief summary of the proposed amendments. The Board of Directors is asked to adopt the proposed amendments to the bylaws and board policies related to reinstating the second vice chair position and the board leadership election schedule. Thank you for your time today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Gloria.
Thank you, Chair. Understood there's no public comment on this item. Chair.
There was not,
Okay.
according to the clerk. I don't know if that's changed. Francesca?
I do have hands from the public, Chair, if we'd like to take those.
Okay, let's go ahead and take those.
Gretchen Newsom, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Gretchen Newsom, on behalf of IBW 569, registering our support for reinstating the second vice chair position. Thank you.
I don't see any other hands, Chair.
Okay, great. Mayor Gloria?
Thank you, Chair. I know we're pressed for time this morning. This was supported by the Executive Committee this morning. I'm happy to make a motion for the staff recommendation to reinstate the second vice chair position.
And I will second the motion, Mayor Salas.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Shu?
I was going to second, but instead I'd like to just say, 早，新年快乐，恭喜恭喜。I just wanted to make sure that somewhere in today's meeting that we acknowledge that much of the world is celebrating the Lunar New Year, and that we do so as well here at SANDAG. So I hope next year we'll be able to meet in person and actually have some treats instead of having this simple Happy New Year greeting. Sorry, I wasn't able to second, but I support this motion.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and vote.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
No.
Thank you. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Spriggs. City of Imperial Beach is absent. For the City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, no.
Thank you. For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
No.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
San Diego, aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
San Marcos, no.
Thank you. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, no.
Thank you. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, no.
And for the City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Spriggs.
Spriggs, yes.
Thank you very much. And that motion does pass with 13 yeses.
Okay, thank you. So now we move on to item number 10. We do not have any applications for the second vice chair currently pending, but we will be nominating from the floor at this time. So as a reminder, all primary board members are eligible to serve as the second vice chair, other than those from the North County Coastal Subregion or the City of San Diego, as our bylaws prohibit the chair, vice chair, and second vice chair from being from the same subregion. So with that, I will open the floor for nominations for the 2021-2022 second vice chair position. And nominations do not require a second.
Chair Blakespear, I'd be happy to nominate Alejandra Sotelo Solis.
Okay.
Second.
Chair, we do have some public comments on this item.
Okay. Let's go to the public comments, then we'll return to the board comments.
Thank you. The first hand I saw was Georgette Gomez.
Hi, good morning, board. This is former Council President Georgette Gomez here, expressing my support for Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis as a member of the public, and also want to extend my support as representing Environmental Health Coalition. Alejandra will do an excellent job, really being the second vice chair. As you all know, this body has a lot of work to do for a region to truly create a plan that will alleviate the impacts to our environment. So it's going to take a lot of leadership to really move forward that ball and to ensure that we're covering the entire region on these issues. And extending the second chair, vice chair, and adding it, I want to give you all congratulations for acknowledging the heavy lift that this body has in front of you all to move forward. And I do believe that Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis is going to be able to bring additional support to this work that you all have in front of you. And I believe that she'll be the strong addition to the leadership. This is why I really want to express my strong support on behalf of myself and also on behalf of Environmental Health Coalition, who's been fighting for environmental justice for far too long. And it's time that we started prioritizing our underserved communities, which happens to be one of the cities that she's representing as well. So I know that the issue is going to be lifted. It's going to be centered in this conversation of mobility in the region. And I really want to commend you for recognizing the work that you all have in front of you and the ability that she's going to be able to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Gretchen Newsom.
Thank you. Gretchen Newsom on behalf of IBW 569 and our 3,600 union electricians and power professionals, speaking in strong support of selecting National City Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis as the second vice chair. A longtime friend and supporter of working families and local job creation, Mayor Ale will bring her passion and powerful voice to this leadership role and well represent South Bay and underserved communities while advancing equity, transit, and a prosperous future for all. IBW 569 encourages the selection of Mayor Alejandro Sotelo Solis as the second vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I don't see any other hands.
Okay, so before we go into any motions, we need to make sure there are not any other nominations. So I do see Councilmember Rodriguez with his hand up.
Yes, thank you so much. I just would like to just say a few words, and then I would like to make a nomination. You know, democracy is like it's just like nature. It functions best when the ecosystem is diverse, balanced, and protected. The SANDAG table requires a balance of ideas, thoughts, and political views in order to truly serve every member of our community and get through the tough financial decisions that lie ahead. I look back to 2015 under the leadership of Mayor Matt Hall and now Mayor Gloria, and how they were able to have opposite political views, but able to work together to meet the greater good of our county. And so today I would like to nominate Mayor Rebecca Jones for that position.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just call on John Kirk, our attorney. When we have two nominations from the floor, could you please address the procedures?
Absolutely. So with two nominations from the floor now, you have two potential motions that can be made, assuming there are no other nominations from the floor before you close nominations. As with other motions, there can be a motion for a candidate and there can be a substitute motion for a different candidate. The substitute motion, if there is one, would be voted on first. And if it prevails, that will be the final decision. If it does not prevail, then you would move on to the primary motion.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to nominate Rebecca Jones for the second vice chair position.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Who was that?
Mayor Hall.
Mayor Hall, okay. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion, or Councilmember Shu, you have your hand up.
Yes, I'd like to enter a substitute motion to have Mayor Alejandro Sotelo Solis as the second vice chair.
Keebler, second.
Okay. I see no other hands up, so let's go ahead and vote on the substitute motion.
Mayor, if I can, there's just a couple of procedural things when we vote on board leadership, if I could cover. First of all, I will note that the vote on the second vice chair will be pursuant to the normal voting process. Although SANDAG's governing statutes call for an exception to this normal process for the election of the chair and vice chair, where we only have a weighted vote, there is no such exception provided for any additional officer positions that the board may implement. Secondly, pursuant to FPPC regulations, the candidates may remain in the meeting and may vote for themselves. SANDAG will file and post on its website FPPC Form 806 identifying the newly elected board officer and their stipend. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and vote.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Hall, no.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Salas, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, no.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
No.
Thank you. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Spriggs.
Spriggs, yes.
Thank you. For the City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, no.
Thank you. For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
No.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
San Marcos, no.
Thank you. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, no.
Thank you. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
Thank you. And for the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Vista, no.
Thank you very much. And that does pass with 11 yeses and 8 noes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could, I just want to say thank you to my colleagues for your support. I look forward to working with Mayor Gloria, Mayor Blakespear, and as Member Rodriguez mentioned, it's about working together and working across the line. So I look forward to continued dialogue, Mr. Rodriguez, and to all of my colleagues, because we all work together as a unit and we're stronger truly together. So look forward to continuously moving this forward, and my door is always open. Please feel free, and I will also to reach out to you to start those lines of communication. Thank you again. And thank you to the people who spoke in the public, who gave their public comments as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you and congratulations. So now we'll move on to item number 11, which is the appointment of board members to the Audit Committee. So this is, the board is asked to approve the following 3 members. Councilmember Zito, Mayor Vasquez, and Councilmember Musgrove. And also we need to waive the 3-year service requirement as it pertains to Councilmember Musgrove's appointment. So do we have any board comment or public comments on this?
Yes, Chair. Stuart Halpern.
Okay.
Stuart, you're self-muted at the moment. If you can go ahead with your comments when you're ready.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. Good morning. My name is Stuart Halpern. I've been a public member of the SANDAG Audit Committee since its formation, and I've also been a member of the TransNet ITOC for the past 7 years. There's a reason that there's a technical screening committee for the public members of the Audit Committee, the minimum requirements of which are 10 years as a certified auditor or other audit, financial, or legal experience in audit management. Independence performance auditing is a highly complex technical field with big, thick manuals written to prescribe standards. The committee's past vice chair, Mayor Wells, is someone who, to his credit, was the first to admit that he wasn't an expert in auditing, but he made genuine effort to at least hear and respect that foreign language, so that when things got bumpy, as you may recall they did in the fall with the release of the OIPA's first audit, Mayor Wells played a vital role in helping us all work through that difficult time. We all owe him our thanks. And Bill, you and I may not agree much on politics, but in this context, I very much appreciate you. I hope the 2 new proposed members and alternate from the board will show important humility and open mind that Mayor Wells displayed during his tenure on the committee. Lastly, I'd like to remind the board that when there was a vacancy for the vice chair of the committee in the past, based on the technical expertise about which I just spoke, the committee unanimously moved to recommend that a public member be selected as vice chair, which is permitted by Board Policy 39 in Section 2.4. I believe that public member Dostart has recently written to the board chair and vice chair reiterating that recommendation, as has SANDAG's independent performance auditor, Mary Kay. I have a slightly different recommendation, which is that the committee itself be empowered to select the vice chair at its upcoming meeting, because as I believe it was management guru Peter Drucker described, the job of leadership isn't walking in with the purported right answer at the beginning of the meeting. It's walking out with the best answer at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Do we have any other public comments?
No, Chair, I don't see any other hands.
Okay. I do not see any hands raised for board comments, so I would entertain a motion. Mayor Gloria, were you about to?
Yeah, I move the recommendation. Just trying to give some people some space. Yes, happy to move the recommendation.
Actually, second.
Okay, there's a motion by Mayor Gloria and a second from Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Salas, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
No.
Thank you. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Spriggs.
Briggs, yes.
Thank you. For the City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, no.
Thank you. For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
No.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
No.
Thank you. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, no.
Thank you. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, no.
Thank you very much. And that motion does pass with 13 yeses and 6 noes.
Okay, thank you. So now we'll go on to item number 12. This is the TransNet program financial strategies, and I'll hand it over to Andre.
Thank you, Chair Blakespear, and good morning, board members. At the last Board of Directors meeting, staff presented an informational item overview of our proposed bond and note issuances. Today, we'll remind you why we are issuing these bonds and notes, but the focus will be on the review of all the bond documents that are attached to this report. We presented this item to the Transportation Committee last week, and they unanimously recommended approval of this item to the board. So in item 12, we have transactions that are similar in nature, but have separate documents and ultimately require independent approval. So I'm presenting them as items 12A and 12B. We'll wait until the end of both items for your approval. We'll start off with item 12A, which is an overview of the proposed 2021 bond issuance, refunding and new money piece. Next slide. Besides the SANDAG staff that is working on this transaction, as always, we have procured a finance team that will assist us through this transaction. With me on the call today are Peter Schellenberger from PFM, our financial advisors, Devin Brennan from ORC, our bond counsel, and Victor Shu from Norton Rose, our disclosure counsel. In addition, Julie Berger from Wells Fargo and Brian Rockwell from Bank of America, our co-senior managers, are on this call too. Next slide. So in our prior presentation, we went through items 1, 2, 3, and 5, which I will touch on today. But as I mentioned, we'll be focusing on the bold item, item number 4, the bond documents. Next slide. So first, why do we need to issue these bonds? That is based on the current revenue projections. We would need an additional 170 to 220 million over the next 5 years to cover project costs currently included in the SANDAG program budget. Refinancing the old bonds and issuing new bonds will reduce the shortfall. Next slide. So looking at the summary of the upcoming 2021 transactions, as mentioned at the last meeting, we closed on the refinance of the TIFIA loan with the cash flow savings of over 123 million. This item 12A is specifically focused on items number 2 and 3, which is a taxable advance refunding of our Series 2014 A bonds and the issuance of approximately 85 million in tax-exempt new money. Next slide. SANDAG has very strong ratings on its senior and subordinate liens, AAA ratings from both S&P and Fitch, and our subordinate lien is rated a very strong AA. But each time we issue new bonds, we have to get an update from the rating agencies. And I'm pleased to say that just this last week, our ratings were affirmed by both the rating agencies, S&P and Fitch. Next slide. So now we look at the structures for the 2021 Series A bonds. We expect to refinance 150 million in bonds, and based on where interest rates are today, we expect to save approximately $20 million. These will be taxable bonds and will remain on our senior lien. For the 2021 Series B bonds, we expect to issue $85 million in bonds, which will generate approximately 113 million in project funds. We'll be placing these bonds at the subordinate lien. Now, this will cost us a little more in interest rate costs as opposed to if we were to place them on the senior lien, but interest rates are so low today that in the environment that we're in, there's very small differential between the AAA and AA rates. And so we thought we would save capacity on the senior lien for potential future issuances. Next slide. There are 8 attachments to this report that we will now review. Next slide, please. So the first attachment is a memo from PFM, our financial advisors, who provide a market update in this memo, as well as more detail on the new money and refunding structure, as well as tender option. Now, before I turn it over to our Bond and Disclosure Counsel to go through the remaining documents, I will ask that our General Counsel, John Kirk, talk about the board responsibilities related to these documents and this issuance.
Thank you, Andre. As detailed in the report, board members have a fiduciary responsibility. That means putting someone else's interest before your own, to become familiar with the documents related to this proposed bond transaction, to make an informed decision, and to ensure that there are no inaccuracies concerning SANDAG in those documents. In particular, board members should review the draft preliminary official statement. That's attachment 6 to item 12A's report, and attachment 4 to item 12B's report. And within that, particularly the risk factors sections. And the risk factors begin at page 272 of the PDF for 12A and page 443 for 12B. The preliminary official statement is the primary disclosure statement that investors review in evaluating SANDAG and deciding whether to purchase these bonds. In reviewing the documents, you should ensure that to the best of your knowledge, all of the factual statements are correct in all material respects, and that the information does not contain any untrue or misleading statement of a material fact, or fail to state any material fact that would make the information in any of the documents regarding SANDAG or the commission misleading. To the extent that you are aware of any inaccuracies, you should make that fact known. When carrying out your fiduciary responsibilities, you are allowed to rely on SANDAG professional staff, bond counsel, and disclosure counsel, all of whom are present at today's meeting, to assure that you are in compliance with the anti-fraud provisions of the federal securities laws, so long as that reliance is reasonable. In order for your reliance to be considered reasonable, you must first make complete disclosure of any potentially material mistake or omission in the documents that is apparent to you. Next, request the professional's advice as to what disclosure is proper with regard to that, and receive advice regarding the appropriate disclosure. At that point, you may then rely in good faith on the advice. SANDAG's Bond and Disclosure Counsel are here today and will share with you further information regarding the documents and what disclosure is proper. I will also share with you that SANDAG's Chief Executive Director, Hassan Akrada, Chief Financial Officer, Andre Dujon, TransNet Department Director, Jose Nuncio, Chief Economist Ray Major, and I, as your General Counsel, have all reviewed both sets of draft bond documents, and to the best of staff's knowledge, all of the statements in these documents are true and correct in all material respects, and the information does not contain any untrue or misleading statement of a material fact, or omit to state any material fact that would make the information in those documents regarding SANDAG misleading. I'll note that this advisory regarding your duties applies equally to the current item 12A as well as to item 12B. I will now turn it back to Andre and the panel to continue explaining the proposed bond transactions to you.
Thank you, John. So if we could go to the next slide, and I'll turn it over to Devin to kick us off with the resolution.
Thank you, Andre, and good morning, board members. As Andre mentioned, my name is Devin Brennan, and I'm a partner at Oric, serving today as bond counsel to the Commission in connection with the issuance of the 2021 bonds. I will be discussing the bond documents included in today's agenda package for those 2021 bonds. The resolution attached as attachment 2 authorizes the issuance of one or more series of 2021 bonds in a maximum principal amount not to exceed $200 million for purposes of refunding all or a portion of SANDAG's outstanding 2014 bonds. The resolution also authorizes one or more series of 2021 new money bonds in a maximum principal amount not to exceed $110 million. The resolution sets forth certain parameters for the bonds and maximum interest rates not to exceed 6%, a maximum original issue discount not to exceed 2%, a maximum true interest costs not to exceed 5%, and a maximum maturity date of April 1, 2048. The resolution authorizes the execution of documents in connections with the transactions and approves other actions that are necessary or desirable to achieve the purposes of the resolution. The team will review the major documents in greater detail, but the following is a brief summary here on this slide. First is the official statement and its preliminary form, which describe the terms of the 2021 bonds and material information regarding the Commission to investors. The 11th supplemental indenture to the senior indenture sets forth the terms of the senior refunding bonds that the Commission proposes to issue. The third supplement to the subordinate indenture sets forth the terms of the subordinate bonds that the Commission proposes to issue, which will include new money bonds and bonds issued to refund any tender bonds. The bond purchase agreements set forth the terms on which the underwriters agree to purchase the Commission's senior and subordinate bonds, and the continuing disclosure agreement sets forth certain obligations of SANDAG to disclose annual information and the occurrence of certain events. If we could move to the next slide, please. The 11th supplemental indenture to the senior indenture is attachment number 3. The master senior indenture sets forth the basic terms of the senior sales tax revenue bonds, including the pledge of revenues and repayment provisions relating to them. The 11th supplemental indenture, which is supplemental to that master senior indenture, provides for issuance of the 2021 bonds and sets forth specific terms of the bonds, including, for example, redemption provisions. The 11th supplemental indenture contains certain covenants, including covenants to comply with disclosure-related requirements, and it also contains specific information that will be added following pricing within the maximum parameters authorized by the Commission in the resolution, which include, for example, interest rates, maturity and redemption dates, total proceeds, and similar items. Next slide, please. The third supplement to the subordinate indenture is attachment 4. The subordinate indenture sets forth the basic terms of the subordinate sales tax revenue obligations, including the short-term notes and the Commission's outstanding commercial paper notes. The third supplemental indenture, which is supplemental to that subordinate indenture, provides for the issuance of the 2021 new money subordinate bonds, and will also provide for payment of bonds tendered by holders in connection with a tender offer, if any. The third supplemental indenture sets forth basic terms of the bonds, the 2021 subordinate bonds, including, for example, redemption provisions. It also contains certain covenants, including covenants to comply with tax and disclosure-related requirements. And like the 11 supplemental, it contains certain information that will be added following pricing within the maximum parameters authorized by the Commission, which, as I mentioned, include things like interest rate, maturity date, redemption dates, total proceeds, and similar items. Next slide, please. Attachment 5 are the bond purchase agreements. These are the agreements between the Commission and the underwriters for the bonds, Wells Fargo Bank as representative for the underwriters of the senior bonds, and B of A Securities as representative for underwriters of the subordinate bonds. These agreements set forth the terms on which the underwriters agree to purchase the Commission's 2021 bonds. Each will be updated with final pricing information on the date of pricing of the bonds. The agreements contain certain representations of the Commission and the underwriters and other parties to the transaction. They also identify certain certificates, opinions, and other documents that will be delivered by transaction participants. I'll now turn the presentation back to Victor Hsu, who will take us through the disclosure documents for the transaction.
Thank you, Devin. Good morning, board members. I'm Victor Hsu, a partner at Norton Rose Fulbright, and we are serving as disclosure counsel on the bonds transaction. Attachment 6 is the draft preliminary official statement. The preliminary official statement, or POS, contains financial information, operating data, risk factors, and legal document summaries regarding the Commission, sales tax revenues, and the bonds that prospective purchasers of the bonds are likely to need in order to make an informed investment decision. The Commission has retained us as disclosure counsel to assist in preparing the POS, and once the pricing and sale of the bonds has occurred, in preparing the final official statement. The data included in the POS and the final OS after pricing will be reviewed by the Commission staff, its financial advisor, and the summaries of the legal documents and the bonds and other content in each document will be reviewed by bond counsel and underwriters counsel. However, the Commission is ultimately responsible to ensure that the POS and OS are accurate, contain all information material to investors, and do not omit any material information. Next slide, please. Attachment 7 is the continuing disclosure agreement. For the underwriters to comply with applicable securities laws and sell the bonds, the Commission must agree in a written undertaking to provide, 1, annual reports to the municipal marketplace of certain information, including sales tax revenues and audited financial statements, and 2, notices of certain enumerated events, including payment delinquencies, defeasances, and rating changes, if any, within 10 business days of their occurrence. The Commission has retained Digital Assurance Certification LLC, or DAC, to assist the Commission in posting information for investors on the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board's Electronic Municipal Market Access, or EMA, system as required under the Continuing Disclosure Agreement. DAC has assisted the Commission in prior bond issues. Next slide, please. Attachment 8 is the invitation to tender bonds. The invitation to tender bonds is a marketing document used in conjunction with the POS for the tender transaction, which involves purchasing bonds to be refunded directly from current holders. The underwriters, acting as dealer managers for the tender, will use the invitation to tender to approach current bondholders and determine the tender price. With that, I'd like to turn it back to Andre.
Thank you, Victor. So as far as our next steps, pending board approval today, we will post a preliminary official statement early next week. A couple of weeks from there, we will start pricing the bonds and with ultimately trying to close the bonds before the end of this quarter on March 22nd. Next slide. So our recommendation is the Transportation Committee recommends that the Board of Directors adopt Regional Transportation Commission, RTC, resolution number RTC 2021-03, authorizing up to 200 million of refunding certain outstanding bonds and the issuance of up to 110 million of fixed rate bonds, and the execution and distribution of the documents in substantially the same form as attached, attachments 3 through 8. Thank you. Chair, if you don't mind, I'll go on to the next item and then wait for questions at the very end, as well as vote at that point.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, similar to the previous item, here we are looking to refinance our short-term notes, whereas the previous item was refinancing a portion of our long-term bonds and new money issue. Next slide. Again, we procure a finance team that will assist us through this transaction, slightly different than the previous team. PFM is still our financial advisor. Norton Rose will act as both the bond and disclosure counsel. And our lead banker here is Citibank, and Ron Marino and Alex Zaman from the firm are with us on the call today. Next slide. So again, the focus will be on the note documents review. Next slide. And again, this note issuance is the first of one of those identified strategies to alleviate the current shortfall. Next slide. So in essence here, we are rolling or refinancing our short-term notes for another 18 months. And these short-term notes will eventually be taken out by the long-term TIFIA loan. Next slide. The current bands are on our subordinate lien, and this is where the new notes will be too. And as I mentioned earlier, our subordinate lien is also rated a strong AA. Next slide. And so when we replace these notes, we anticipate saving approximately $10 million. Next slide. And so we will go through each one of these documents again. Next slide. The first one is the PFM memo that updates the market and details on this note refunding structure. Next slide. I'll now turn it over to Victor to go over the remaining documents. Victor.
Thank you, Andre. Attachment 2 is the draft commission resolution. Its parameters include notes to be authorized in a principal amount not to exceed $537,480,000. Interest rates on the notes not to exceed 6%, with a true interest cost not to exceed 1.25%. The maximum maturity of the notes shall not extend beyond November 1st, 2022. And each document authorized by the resolution will be reviewed in greater detail. In summary, the POS and final OS describe the terms of the notes and material information about the commission to investors. The second supplement to subordinate indenture sets forth the terms of the notes and duties of the commission and the trustee. And finally, the note purchase agreement sets forth the terms under which the underwriters agree to purchase the notes for resale to investors. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. There's the continuing disclosure agreement sets forth certain ongoing obligations of the commission to disclose annual information and the occurrence of certain listed events. And the escrow agreement establishes the escrow fund into which note proceeds will be deposited to repay the existing 2018 notes. The resolution also approves other actions that are necessary or desirable to achieve its purposes. And next slide, please. Attachment 3 is the second supplement to the subordinate indenture. Second supplemental subordinate indenture sets forth the terms of the notes, including, for example, final principal amount, interest rate, and final maturity date. It contains covenants for the commission to observe, including covenants to comply with certain tax and disclosure-related requirements. It is similar to prior fixed-rate supplemental indentures approved by the commission, including the supplemental indenture for the existing 2018 notes. And in this document, there remains certain specific information to be added within parameters authorized by the commission following the pricing of the notes, such as the interest rate and final principal amount. Next slide, please. Attachment 4 is the draft preliminary official statement. As noted previously, the POS contains financial information, operating data, and legal document summaries regarding the commission, sales tax revenues, and the notes that prospective purchasers of the notes are likely to need in order to make an informed investment decision. The commission has retained us as disclosure counsel to assist in preparing the POS and to complete it once the pricing and sale of the notes has occurred. The data included in the POS and in the final official statement after pricing will be reviewed by commission staff and its financial advisor, and the summaries of the legal documents and the notes and other content in each document will be reviewed by Underwriters Counsel. It is important to emphasize that the commission is ultimately responsible to ensure that the POS and OS are accurate, contain all information material to investors, and do not omit any material information. Next slide, please. Attachment 5 is the continuing disclosure agreement. For the underwriters to comply with applicable securities laws and sell the notes, the commission must agree in a written undertaking to provide 1, annual reports to the municipal marketplace of certain information, including sales tax revenues and audited financial statements, and 2, notices of certain enumerated events, including payment delinquencies and rating changes, if any, within 10 business days of their occurrence. The commission has retained DAC to assist in posting information for investors on the EMA system as required under the continuing disclosure agreement. DAC has assisted the commission in prior bond issues. Next slide, please. Attachment 6 is the note purchase agreement. It is the agreement between the commission and the note underwriters led by Citigroup Global Markets, the senior manager and underwriter representative. It sets forth the terms under which the underwriters agree to purchase the notes, and it will be updated with final pricing information on the date of pricing. The note purchase agreement will contain certain representations of the commission and forms of opinions to be delivered by counsel to the transaction participants at closing. Next slide, please. Attachment 7 is the escrow agreement. The escrow agreement establishes an escrow account into which note proceeds will be deposited to repay the currently outstanding 2018 notes. And with that, I would like to turn it back to Andre.
Thank you, Victor. So just looking at the next steps, again, pending board approval today, we'll post the preliminary official statement next week. We'll start marketing of those bonds immediately with anticipated pricing of February 22nd and closing by March 15th. Next slide. And so the recommendation is for both 12A and 12B, the Transportation Committee recommends that the Board of Directors, acting as the Regional Transportation Commission, adopt Regional Transportation Commission RTC Resolution number RTC-2021-04, authorizing up to $537.5 million of refunding notes and the execution and distribution of the documents in substantially the same form as attached, attachments 3 through 7. At this point, that concludes our presentation, and I will be available for any questions with the rest of the team. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for that very thorough presentation. I did have one question, and I noticed that there was not a debt service reserve fund that was proposed, and I was wondering if you could just address why that is.
Sure. So SANDAG had a debt service reserve fund initially established with the 2008 bonds, but since then we've been AAA rated by both rating agencies of S&P and Fitch, and generally when you have a very strong rating such as that, they don't require us to have a debt service reserve fund. In fact, we'll be coming back to the board next month asking for you to release the amount of monies that we have currently sitting in our 2008 reserve fund, because we prefer to use it on projects rather than just sitting in account. And unfortunately, as you know today, not earning much interest. So generally, that's why we don't need to have a reserve fund for transactions going forward.
Okay, thank you. And what is the cost of these bonds?
Yeah, so generally when we go out, every single team member that's on the finance team, we competitively, and ultimately each one of them comes with a cost. But each one of these bonds is costing us about $1 million in total between the rating agencies, the financial advisors, the legal teams, as well as the cost to actually underwrite these bonds. So it's about $1 million on each transaction.
Okay. And as a percentage, that's because this is about $375 million of bonds, right? So that's.
Yeah, so as a percentage for the first deal, it's about 40 basis points. And for the second one, which is the notes, it's about 20 basis points. And in general, they've been in line with the last 4 or 5 transactions that we've had.
Okay, thank you. So I don't see any other hands raised from board members or there's council member or Mayor Hall.
Yes, I'd like to ask the following question, if I could, of the director. Is there any missing, omitted, or undisclosed information that we as a board should have in conjunction with these items that are before us today?
Thank you for the question, and we do not believe there is any missing information in front of you here today.
Okay, and no one is aware of that, any member of SANDAG?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that question, Mayor Hall. Do we have any public comments on this item?
No, Chair, I don't see any hands from the public.
Okay, Mayor Hall, were you making a motion? Was that your hand went back up and then down and then back up? Well, I don't see him anymore, but I would entertain a motion on this item.
Voss, move approval.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so that was Mayor Voss moving approval and Mayor Sotelo seconding it. So let's go ahead and vote.
Thank you very much. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Salas, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Coronado, Mayor Bailey.
Bailey, yes.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells. I'll come back for the City of El Cajon. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Escondido, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Spriggs.
Spriggs, aye.
Thank you. For the City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Mayor Vasquez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Hebner, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Vista, yes.
Thank you. And for the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells. All right. I apologize. Do we have an alternate on the line for El Cajon? The City of El Cajon is absent. And that motion does pass with those members present.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on. Thank you very much to the team. We'll move on to the next item, which is the equity statement. And I'm going to call on Mayor Vasquez, but first I just want to say a special thank you to Council Member Vivian Moreno and the Social Equity Working Group who put in a lot of work on this statement, and also to the members of our community who participated, and to the SANDAG staff, and then also the board members who got together in the subcommittee format to talk about this. So I will turn it over to Mayor Vasquez.
And thank you, Chair Blakespear. Good morning, board members. On January 22nd, This board voted for an ad hoc subcommittee to make a recommendation to the board on the commitment to equity statement. The ad hoc subcommittee members are Oceanside City Council member Chris Rodriguez, La Mesa City Council member Jack Shue, National City Mayor Alejandra Sotelo Solis, Encinitas Council member Joe Masca, Del Mar Mayor Terry Gasterland, and me. I served as the chair of the subcommittee, and we met once on January 28th. The ad hoc subcommittee was very thoughtful in its deliberations, seeking to understand each other's viewpoints. We were also grateful to have the advice of Dr. Sharon Adams, an expert on racism, diversity, and inclusion to answer questions. We believe it was best to have a statement that does not call up every historically marginalized group. We wanted everyone to see themselves in the statement. We also agreed to add the word fund to the portion of the statement that mentions planning and prioritizing projects at the recommendation of Councilmember Shue. Historically, lack of funding was a form of systemic racism. Adding the word fund makes sure the process is equitable and does not discriminate. We have the most amazing opportunity in this region to develop the best transportation system that meets the needs of San Diegans. And while I may come from a small city, like most of the members on the subcommittee, but together we represent a mighty portion of this county. I believe many of our residents expect SANDAG to recognize the historical challenges some groups have faced and still face, and to ensure those challenges are understood and overcome. We would not be here where we are today without the work of San Diego City Council member Vivian Moreno, who was the chair of SANDAG's Social Equity Working Group. Under her leadership, the working group passed a resolution in support of the commitment to equity statement that we are contemplating today. The work done by the group helped staff draft this statement. And I thank them and Councilmember Moreno. In closing, our ad hoc subcommittee voted unanimously on the recommendation that is before the board today. And I move that the board approve the commitment to equity statement. Thank you. And I'll turn this back over to Chair Blakespear.
Well, thank you for those impassioned words. Do we have public comment on this item?
No, Chair, I don't see any hands from the public.
Okay, we'll circle back around to make sure that that's the case. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Very good. So yeah, it was an absolute honor and privilege to serve with other leaders and really digging in deep to the heart of this statement. And I think the goal, especially as a region, as a nation, I think is definitely appropriate. And I just really appreciate everyone that served on that group. I appreciate this body, and I'm excited as a region leading this effort to really show every nook and cranny of our county that we care about them and that their voice is being heard, and that will be backed up with tangible action to help our community. So I would like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation and the subcommittee's recommendation on this equity statement.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Gloria.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second Mr. Rodriguez's motion with appreciation of Mayor Vasquez for her leadership and quick work at the ad hoc subcommittee, as well as deep appreciation to our City of San Diego Council member Vivian Moreno, who, as you mentioned, along with the CBO working group, helped to get this effort started. Appreciate your wisdom, Chair, of taking a little extra time to make sure that we can get consensus. My hope is today that we can ratify this unanimously to send the strong statement that these words on this page certainly send, but to validate it with a strong vote of this board to say that SANDAG will consider equity and the need to focus on underserved and underrepresented groups as we work, do the important work of spending $1 billion annually in neighborhoods all across this great region. Again, appreciation to staff, Irene McCormick, for also helping on this effort, and to the members of the board and members of the community to help make this possible. This really is a new day at SANDAG. I think this is a very strong statement and really signals that we're prepared to do the difficult work of making sure that we build a region that works for everybody. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mayor Gasterland.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to serve on this subcommittee, and we had quite an active discussion. I wanted to make sure that some of the highlights of that discussion were presented here. One is this statement seeks to be truly inclusive, and it is. We discussed the benefits of a list versus language that refers to problems, people who have experienced systemic bias and historical marginalization over time. So this statement as is leans toward the inclusive, but without listing different groups. This statement presents values and our shared SANDAG vision for social equity in our region. It's a strong, clear statement, and it will be a first, and it will be a statement that we can rally around. Finally, this statement as a vision and value statement provides a foundation for action and for priorities. And it will provide this board and all of SANDAG with a way to approach seeking equity, social equity. I too agree with Mayor Gloria and hope that this board will see fit to take these highlights into consideration and vote unanimously yes to adopt this social equity statement. It'll be a fine moment for our area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Thank you, Chair. And again, I'd like to also express my gratitude for the ad hoc committee that was strong, small but mighty. We got a meeting, scheduled and done within that week. And also to just the dialogue that we really had throughout that time, because everybody brought their perspectives, brought their expertise, and ways with which they've worked with these types of statements before. I want to thank and echo the sentiment Mayor Gloria brought up with the leadership of Councilmember Vivian Moreno, the CBO group, Irene and her team for truly taking what was an initial idea to really being something that we can see in action. Because it's the way with which we prioritize, way with which we look at funding, the way with which we bring equity truly to our projects. So this is very exciting. I'm thankful to have been part of the process. And I want to thank Chair Vasquez for running the meeting. And again, this is how we are going to create that pipeline of equity, not just now, but longer term as an organization that brings transportation to all. Again, the ones that, the choice riders and the ones that are transit dependent. So thank you again, Chair. Thank you to the entire leadership. I look forward to supporting this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hsu.
Thank you. I'll make my comments real brief. First, ditto to all the comments that have been made already. I just want for the record to note that the historically underserved, systemically marginalized groups and groups impacted by actions and inactions at all levels, that when we interpret those words, that it includes economic justice and addressing economic inequities from the past. And lastly, I think sometimes we get a little too serious. I forgot to mention that this year is the year of the bull. So I wanted to show you that I don't have a filter, but I do have some other means to give my show that I'm celebrating New Year's. Happy New Year's.
Thank you, Councilmember Shu. Yes, we have a running theme here in this meeting from you. Okay, I see the airport chair has her hand up. Let's hear from her.
Yes, hi, good morning. Thank you so much. Joanna Schiavone, as a new member of this board, though not a voting member, I want to commend you for your work toward equity and on this very strong and thoughtful statement. And that's, I think that you are really demonstrating this kind of leadership in our region. So I hope that your board adopts it.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, so now we do have one public comment. So let's go to that public comment and then we can go ahead and vote.
Thank you. Craig Jones, you can go ahead with your comments when you're ready.
Thank you very much. Just real briefly, my name is Craig Jones. I'm a representative to the community-based organization / social equity working group. We very much appreciate the board's consideration of this today, the work of the subcommittee, and the work of the SANDAG staff to move this forward. We very much look forward to the next step, which is the drafting out of a social equity framework plan, and the results of this emphasis in a regional transportation plan with prioritization of funding that will provide much greater transportation access opportunities for our underserved communities. So thank you very much for this work and consideration.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So I think Mayor Vasquez made a motion at the end of her statement, so I'm going to transform Chris Rodriguez's motion into a second. I think we have a little bit of background noise there, but so let's go ahead and vote on that, on the equity statement.
Thank you. For the City of Carlsbad, Mayor Hall.
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of Chula Vista, Mayor Salas.
Salas, yes.
Thank you. For the City of, the City of Coronado is absent. For the County of San Diego, Supervisor Lawson Reamer. Do we have Supervisor Anderson on the line for a vote?
Anderson, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterland?
Yes.
Thank you. For the City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells? The City of El Cajon is absent. For the City of Encinitas, Chair Blakespear?
Blakespear, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Escondido, Mayor McNamara?
McNamara, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Spriggs?
Spriggs, aye.
Thank you. For the City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu?
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez? I'll come back for the City of Lemon Grove. For the City of National City, Mayor...
City of Lemon Grove, Raquel Vasquez, yes. My mic was off, sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor. For the City of National City, Mayor Sotelo Solis?
Sotelo Solis, aye.
Thank you. For the City of Oceanside, Councilmember Rodriguez?
Quick question. I was a little confused. Who made the motion and the second on this item?
You're the second. So Raquel made the motion. Mayor Vasquez made the motion as part of her initial comments and.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rodriguez, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Poway, Mayor Voss? Mayor Jones, are you on the line?
I am.
Would you like to provide the vote for City of Poway? I believe we lost Mayor Voss.
Mayor
Well,
Jones cannot provide
I'm
a
going to
vote
be
for the City of Poway.
No, I'm going to be voting for myself.
I'm so sorry.
That's
I'm still in
okay.
the last meeting. Let's see. For Mayor Poway, do we have Councilmember Mullen on the line? I don't think so. Sorry, City of Poway is absent. For City of San Diego, Mayor Gloria.
Aye.
For the City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Jones, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Minto, yes.
Thank you. For the City of Solana Beach, Mayor Huebner.
Huebner, yes.
For the City of Vista, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
Thank you. And that does pass with those members present.
Okay, great. That was a unanimous vote, which is exciting. And I am looking forward to turning those words from the equity statement into action. So that will be exciting to see what the next step is. So we have made it to our last item, which is the 2021 regional plan, which is also moving from vision to plan. And in order to get a sense of how much time the public comments are going to take, if we could have those who want to make a public comment raise their hand, so we could do that during the staff report. That would make it easier to manage this remaining time of this meeting. So with that, I will hand it over to staff, who I know has poured tons of time and effort into this work, and we're really grateful for that. So let's go ahead and hand it to you.
Thank you, Mayor Blakespear, Mayor Gloria, board members, good morning. Today we are excited to share with you the transition from a vision to plan. Until now, you have seen a vision. It's exciting, but now it is our duty to make it a plan. As I said last year when we presented, our goal is clear. We want to create and reimagine the transportation system in San Diego. We want it to be faster, cleaner, and we want it to be the transportation system of the future, a world-class transportation system. I truly believe that this region is due for a remake of the transportation system here. As I said many times before, and I say it again, yes, it's going to be expensive. Yes, it's going to take a long time, but I remind you that nothing worth anything that's not expensive and that doesn't take a long time. I also want to remind you as leaders that it is you who's going to move this plan. The staff has done an amazing work, will continue to do it. And it is San Diego's at the end of the day that's going to determine, say yes or no to this plan. But I promise you that this plan is becoming a statewide, a nationwide example of how we move forward in the future. I want to remind the board members that we're going to go through many workshops because there were many issues. This is a big plan. This is an amazing plan. And like I said before, we're going to aim high, very high. And nothing is going to stop us as a staff from aiming high, because I believe this region deserves. So today we have two amazing members of our team. Our amazing planning director, Colleen Clemenson, our amazing chief economics and chief data officer, Ray Major, is going to throw with you with a presentation that I hope is going to create a great public policy debate. So with that, I'll turn it to Colleen and Ray.
Thank you. And good morning, Chair Blakespear and SANDAG board members. The regional plan provides a strategy to create a San Diego region that's faster, fairer, and cleaner. How did we arrive at these goals? By identifying the three biggest challenges we need to overcome as a region. Through the 2021 regional plan, we will achieve a faster network by addressing congestion, a fairer network by improving social equity, and achieve a cleaner network by meeting state and federal mandates related to climate change and clean air. Let's start with the first challenge, the legislation behind the goal of a cleaner network. Senate Bill 375 and the Federal Clean Air Act set important state and federal environmental rules. Title VI outlines the federal civil rights requirements and environmental justice. And there's the California Environmental Quality Act and Senate Bill 743, which set vehicle miles traveled as a benchmark to measure greenhouse gas reductions from automobile emissions. The big takeaway is this. When it comes to cleaner, by 2035, we are required to reduce greenhouse gases by 19% per person compared to 2005 levels. That's a lot of work to do in just 14 years. But I am confident, along with this board, we can do it. It's a tremendous opportunity to come together and transform our transportation system. The team here at SANDAG sees this as more than just a mandate. We see it as what we must do to take care of our San Diego region.
The second challenge of the regional plan is to address congestion. So I'd like to begin by addressing a question that many of you have. We're in the middle of a pandemic and traffic volumes are down. So why are we talking about an ambitious regional plan when it seems like telecommuting is here to stay and many people will be working from home? While it's true that congestion has been light in the past year, it's a direct result of the shelter-in-place orders that mandated people to stay at home. Many businesses still have their employees working from home. A third of our businesses are shut, and traffic to places that people used to frequent, such as restaurants, gyms, apparel stores, shopping centers, is down by 40 to 60%. Places like movie theaters and ballparks, major attractions, have effectively been shut down, and traffic to these places has been reduced to a fraction of what it was before the COVID-19 crisis. Even so, after dramatic reductions in VMT right after the initial shelter-in-place orders were issued, we witnessed a slow but steady increase in traffic in VMT. And last month, our traffic volumes on the freeways region-wide were back up to 85% of where they were a year ago. The SR 78 in North County is at 95% of where it was pre-COVID. So today, if you travel at rush hour, you experience slowing, albeit not as bad as it was pre-COVID. And this slowing is happening despite a large portion of our economy still being shut down. So for a moment, let's fast forward to the point where the vaccine is successful and our economy reopens. Many, but not all the people are going to return through their offices, and kids are going to go back to school. Well, this represented about 37% of our travel in the region pre-COVID, and these trips will significantly increase. Also, after we open, travel to pre-COVID, travel to places like discretionary or optional trips, like those to gyms, restaurants, bars, nail salons, movie theaters, for instance, are all going to increase also. So as the economy opens up, these trips are going to increase dramatically. One thing is for sure, traffic will increase and congestion will be back to levels that we saw before the pandemic. We're almost there now. So managing congestion remains a major goal of the 2021 plan. The third challenge of the plan is to address social equity. The first of three disadvantaged populations we looked at were our minority communities who historically have been underserved from a transportation perspective. When you look at the San Diego region, it's an ever-changing, complex mosaic of different cultures, races, lifestyles, and communities. And at the most aggregate level, we see that our region is becoming more rather than less ethnically diverse. For comparison, the 2000 census reported that 56% of the region's population was non-Hispanic white, more than double that of the Hispanic population, which represented 27% of the total. As you can see in the graph, 16 years later, the white population stood at 46% of the total, and the Hispanic population represented 34% of the total population. Our region continues to change. By 2050, the white and Hispanic populations will nearly be equal, and minority populations will comprise about 60% of our total population. One of our major goals of the regional plan is to establish a fair and equitable system for these communities and provide access to job centers, educational institutions, healthcare, and other major destinations. The second disadvantaged population are those that are low income. With transportation being second only to housing expenditure, it's no surprise that low income people are disproportionately burdened when it comes to transportation costs. As you know, alternatives to owning a vehicle in the region are hard to come by. And for many, the automobile is really the only feasible way to get to work. Consider for a moment that buying a $10,000 car for a household earning $30,000 a year amounts to about 5 months of salary after taxes. That same car for a household making $100,000 represents about 2 months of salary. To fill a 20-gallon gas tank requires a person earning $30,000 a year to work around 6 hours, almost a full day to fill the tank. A person earning $100,000 needs only to work for about 2 hours to fill their tank. And as you can see from this bar chart, more than 1 in 5 households in the San Diego region earn $30,000 or less. 35% of the households in our region earn less than $45,000, and they're considered low income. This translates to over 400,000 households and roughly 1.1 million people in our region. Clearly, we need to provide a cheaper alternative to driving for our residents. The third disadvantaged population is our senior population. The San Diego region is aging. The blue bars represent the current population distribution by 5-year age category, and the purple bars show the distribution in 2050. Notice the incredible growth in the older population. Nearly 60% of our population growth will be in the age 75 plus category. By 2050, the horizon year of this plan, San Diego will look much different than it does today. The transportation needs of this population are something that will be addressed by this regional plan. So those are the challenges. And you are all familiar with the 5 interreliant strategies that we are using to solve for them. You know them as the 5 big moves: complete corridors, transit leap, mobility hubs, flexible fleets, and the next operating system. They work together and complement each other to create one comprehensive system. It's important to remember that none can be successful without the others. For this planning cycle, we used a data-driven process to help us understand the transportation needs of our region. Past planning cycles have been essentially a refresh of a list of projects. In other words, in the past, we used to use data to validate what we wanted to do. This time around, however, we are using data to help us determine what we need to do. This time, we started from scratch to define the system, from the ground up, using not only traditional data, but new big data sources that we haven't had access to before to really help solve the transportation challenges here in the San Diego region.
The 5 big moves will take the form of a complete multimodal system throughout the region. Looking out to the year 2050, we're talking about a system of managed lanes, critical improvements on our rural corridors, high-speed commuter rail in the highest demand areas, improvements to our light rail system, a dramatic expansion of rapid transit services, mobility hubs that will transform our urban forum, creating vibrant centers of activity, flexible fleets to connect all parts of our region. And this complete system is optimized with the next operating system. The details of all of this are available for all to review on the SANDAG Regional Plan Data Viewer. Since we presented the big, bold vision to the board last August, we've shared it with the region. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. We showed it on our social media channels. We held virtual discussions with organizations across the region and the nation, for that matter. People are excited about the vision. So what we're here to do today is update you on how we are taking this bold vision and transitioning it into a bold plan. For starters, the team has been utilizing a sophisticated activity-based travel demand model to simulate the impacts of this transformative approach and determine how to phase in the system of improvements and how to do it in such a way that it creates an integrated system that works for everyone. There are 6 considerations helping us to turn the vision into the plan, and they're laid out here. First, we set out to create a plan that will meet our climate target, and I am very happy to report that our model results currently show that with this plan, we will meet our 19% greenhouse gas reduction target by 2035. And we believe that we are setting the stage by doing much more. Next, our social equity analysis shows that we're far surpassing what we have done previously to provide historically underserved communities access to quality jobs, education, and healthcare. This is in direct alignment with your approval of the equity statement. Then we want to achieve tangible results for the region. So we set out to determine what we could reasonably accomplish by the year 2035. We're going to focus on those improvements, which are really up to the halfway point in the plan. We will be sharing that with you today. It's important to recognize that the regional plan is not just a system of transportation projects. There are programs and policies necessary to make the system work. Examples include electric vehicle incentives, employer programs to encourage ride sharing and telecommuting, and land use partnerships with each of you. Next big factor is funding, and we are preparing a funding strategy now, and we'll present that in more detail at your March meeting. We're confident that we have a solid approach to make sure we achieve these goals. The final consideration is modeling and performance. Since August, we've put everything from the vision into our detailed transportation model to empirically evaluate and validate this vision to see how it reduces congestion, improves social equity, and cuts greenhouse gases. We also are coordinating with the California Air Resources Board to make sure we're meeting their expectations. Ultimately, they're one of the approvers of our plan, and to ensure that we're meeting their modeling requirements. We are using all of these considerations to make sure the plan is going to help us achieve our goal of fast, fair, and clean. Now I'm going to walk through the investments that need to be made in the near term to get us there, to help us reduce emissions, alleviate congestion, and address social equity. So what can we reasonably expect to complete by the year 2035? Starting with complete corridors, a network of managed lanes on all of our major highways. These managed lanes would be dynamically managed and priced through the next operating system. They will provide the infrastructure for a robust transit system, part of Transit Leap, while also managing congestion overall to facilitate goods movement and emergency response. Starting with the complete corridors, managed lanes are shown in green on this map. This is what we anticipate being complete by 2035. There are 3 main components of Transit Leap that are also proposed by 2035. First, an extensive rapid transit network to ensure fast and reliable service. This network is illustrated by the purple lines on the map on this slide. Second, within the 2035 timeframe, complete improvements for passenger rail and freight in our Los Angeles to San Diego corridor, known as LOSAN, by completing the double tracking and moving the tracks off the Del Mar Bluffs. The third part of Transit Leap proposed to be completed by 2035 is a high-speed commuter rail line from National City to Kearny Mesa and on to Sereno Valley. This particular portion of the commuter rail system is known as the Purple Line or the Jobs Train because it connects residents from some of our most disadvantaged communities to our region's major employment centers and higher education. We all know that a significant portion of the San Diego regional economy relies on the efficient movement of goods by trucks and rail. That's why by 2035, the improvements in the LOSAN corridor and activating the next operating system in our complete corridors is so important. In addition, the plan proposes completing a state-of-the-art international border crossing at the Otay Mesa East. For rural roadways, by 2035, it's about using the technology in the next operating system and constructing safety improvements included in the complete corridors. This is straightening curves, constructing passing lanes, making intersection improvements, providing emergency evacuation routes to ensure that people are able to exit when we have wildfires and other emergencies. More detailed planning is already underway for State Route 67, for example. The exact nature of these improvements will be determined through the comprehensive multimodal corridor planning process that is currently being conducted by SANDAG and Caltrans. For our tribal lands, we've already provided funding to advance projects that tribes included in the Interregional Tribal Transportation Strategy. This work is being done in collaboration with the Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association. Also, in collaboration with the tribes, we plan to deploy an in-road wireless electric vehicle charging pilot. Now let's focus on two more of the 5 big moves: mobility hubs and flexible fleets. They work together to support a variety of mobility needs. Mobility hubs are places where all our transit options, high-speed transit, converge at key gateways and where we have other transit connections. Mobility hub areas are the pink areas shown on this map. These are places with dense mobility options, including transit centers, but also these are employment centers, residential areas, and destinations within our communities. In the future, mobility hub areas are where we envision focusing our region's growth and development. We plan for a concentration of flexible fleets within the mobility hub areas where they will provide the last mile connection from high-speed transit. And flexible fleets also provide services in anywhere, all throughout the region. Think of Uber and Lyft to connect you to transit or to your final destination. 3 examples of mobility hubs include the Oceanside Transit Center, our northern gateway, the Central Mobility Hub, which connects to all points in the region and will provide a direct transit connection to the airport, and the San Ysidro Intermodal Transit Center, our southern gateway and international border. The plan proposes mobility hubs throughout the region, and the exact areas we will refine in collaboration with all the local jurisdictions. We see mobility hubs of all sizes as major centers of activity, a huge opportunity to partner with cities, local agencies, community organizations to create spaces where commerce, people, and public amenities come together to create great neighborhoods. We'll also be working with cities to invest in local roads to create complete streets that are available to all users and with the infrastructure necessary to support multimodal transportation. Several of the improvements we've mentioned so far, including the rural corridors, support flexible fleets. Flexible fleets come in many forms. They're on demand when you need them. They're also shared, saving commuters the cost of having to invest in a vehicle. They also vary in size from bikes to scooters to shuttles. Flexible fleets can adapt to technology like self-driving vehicles, artificial intelligence, and other things that we haven't even thought of yet. In rural parts of the county where it doesn't make sense to build a new transit line, this is where flexible fleets come in. The team is already starting on this work by partnering with cities, community-based organizations, and private operators to pilot flexible fleets. What happens on our local streets and roads is critical for the success of the entire system. Having a safe place to walk, jog, hop on a bicycle is a major factor in quality of life for all of us. We're planning for investments in infrastructure programs, e-bike incentives, and to make active trips and connections to transit easier and safer. By 2035, it's projected that 1 in 5 people will be driving an electric vehicle and all new cars will be zero emissions. So we're planning for the infrastructure to support this shift. Just a few months ago, SANDAG partnered with the California Energy Commission and the County Air Pollution Control District to launch Cal EVIP, an incentive program for charging infrastructure. It has been very popular and the program was oversubscribed in just a matter of minutes. We're planning for funding to support electrification of vehicles of all shapes and sizes, including our bus fleets and goods movement vehicles by 2035. The regional plan is more than transportation. This plan will include a land use scenario that focuses growth in the mobility hub areas and aligns with our regional housing needs assessment, or the RHNA, which is a requirement of Senate Bill 375. Many of you are working on your housing elements now and making changes to allow for this type of growth and development. We also know that affordable housing is not easy to bring to fruition, and that's why you'll see in this plan an affordable housing program that will bring more resources to address the housing crisis in our region. We've also set aside funding for climate resilience by 2035. These funds would support planning activities called for in the Sustainable Community Strategy, including natural climate solutions like wetland restoration, land management activities that protect agriculture and preserve our open space. These actions make our region more resilient to climate impacts, more resilient to sea level rise, wildfires, and heat waves, while maximizing the greenhouse gas emissions reductions as we preserve open space. Finally, another key program area that's necessary for us to achieve our greenhouse gas reduction target is congestion management and value-based pricing. Our SANDAG iCommute team has supported numerous employers in the region with demand management programs like promoting telework and carpooling incentives, offering van pool subsidies. Value-based pricing includes pricing like you've seen on our existing managed lanes. It's a system that is dynamic and responsive to roadway conditions. We're also committed to ensuring that the value-based pricing is done equitably and takes into consideration our low-income communities throughout the region. We plan to discuss this further when we bring the presentation to you on cost and financing in March. The plan proposes a fully integrated system, not just by 2050, but by 2035, with even more to come after. A system that includes high-speed transit, safe places for people to bike and walk, easy access to flexible fleets that are on demand when you need them, all connected by the next operating system, and surrounded by bustling communities filled with businesses, jobs, housing, and recreation. This all comes together to improve the livability of our communities. It's a big investment. Just as Hassan said, it's a lot of work. The benefits are worth it. We can imagine a region with cleaner air, natural resources protected, healthy communities, and convenient, equitable transportation options to get us all where we need to go.
As we move from vision to plan, the focus of the data science team changes from providing data and analysis for developing the 5 big moves to analytics that quantify the performance and benefits of the proposed plan. So let's look at some of the preliminary results we could get from these investments. To make our system faster, the regional plan focuses on optimizing the current infrastructure and reducing congestion during peak periods. To make the system fairer, the regional plan increases access to transit and employment centers with new technologies and concepts like mobility hubs, flexible fleets, and the next operating system. And to make our system cleaner, the regional plan will ensure that we meet the greenhouse gas reduction goals mandated by Senate Bill 375 by optimizing the investments made in our system. Peak period work trips are the trips that contribute most to congestion in our region. As shown in the graph, in 2016, the base year of our plan, 80% of San Diegans commuted to work alone, 13% carpooled, 3% used transit, and another 3% biked or walked to work. As a comparison, by 2050, the prior regional plan was only able to reduce drive alone percentages by 5% from 80 down to 75. But if we implement this plan, we could reduce the drive alone percentage to 62%, a reduction of over 100,000 drive alone trips per day in 2035. We also see carpooling increasing to 17% and a threefold increase in transit usage due to better accessibility and more frequent services targeted at the optimal origins and destinations. Much of the activity network will be built out by 2035, more than doubling bike and walk trips. As you can see, by 2050, these metrics continue to improve throughout the extent of the plan. Our new data-driven approach allows us to objectively look at where people live and work. And the map on the left shows you where more than 50% of the people work. The map on the right shows you the vast majority of where people live. It's no surprise that these areas are located in the western one-third of the region. And the new plan calls for infrastructure that ties all these areas of activity in the region together in a more cohesive and flexible way. One of the shortcomings of our current transportation system is that not enough people have reasonable access to alternatives to driving alone. Approximately 10% of our region's residents have access to an alternative. And this is true for all populations, including low-income people at 12%, minorities at 10%, and seniors at 8%. The complete corridors, in conjunction with Transit Leap strategy, significantly increases not only the number of opportunities for people to take alternatives to driving alone, but also the quality of the service. It's faster, more frequent, and more accessible. This triples access to the alternative forms of transportation in the region by 2035. And we see improvements in all communities of concern. These numbers continue to improve through 2050, the horizon year of our plan. Another shortcoming of our current transportation system is that we don't have alternatives that are competitive to driving alone in terms of time. Some of the longest transit trips people take today are to get to their jobs. In some cases, people spend as much as 2 hours or more to get from home to their place of employment. A faster transit system supported by complete corridors and flexible fleets allows for a much larger percentage of our population to get to work in a reasonable amount of time. Let's look at transit access to Tier 1 employment centers. These are the blue areas on the map. And these contain most of our corporate headquarters, our manufacturing firms, and our government jobs. This is where 328,000 people work. It represents 22% of all of the jobs in the San Diego region. Currently, only 16% of low income and 13% of minority populations can get to these areas on transit within 30 minutes. 35% of low income and 32% of minority populations have access within 45 minutes. By 2035, our system will provide significant improvements so that many more people have access to transit. As you can see, these numbers continue to grow through 2025, where almost 60% of our low-income population and 52% of our minority population will have access to Tier 1 employment centers within 45 minutes of transit. Now we're looking at Tier 2 employment centers. This is where another 304,000 people are employed. 1 in 5 jobs in the region are located in these areas. The Tier 2 employment centers are anchored by retail centers and hospitals, and commutes to these jobs are typically shorter as people live closer to their place of employment. Currently, about 40% of low income and 1/3 of minority populations can have access to Tier 2 employment centers within 30 minutes using our existing system. By 2035, the plan increases access within 30 minutes to 55% for low-income populations and 49% for minority populations. Again, by 2050, we continue to see improvements. And if we look at the access in 45 minutes, 80% of low-income and 76% of minority populations are able to take transit to a Tier 2 employment center within 45 minutes. As you can see, these initial results are very promising. And we are confident that we have defined a system that addresses congestion and social equity while meeting our greenhouse gas emission targets.
Yes, the results are promising. All of the system improvements are available for detailed review on our SANDAG data viewer. It's complex, and there are improvements projected throughout the region and multiple programs and policies to support this. There's much more to discuss, and we know you're eager to learn about the cost, the pricing strategies, and an overall funding strategy to make this bold plan a reality. On March 12th, we'll bring those details to you. On March 26th, we'll discuss equity, how it has been prioritized in this planning effort, and considerations going forward. On April 9th, we'll focus on emerging technologies that are transforming our transportation system. And we'll describe how the next operating system really works, the challenges and the opportunities it presents. On April 23rd, we'll focus on how the regional plan supports your local planning efforts, how we can leverage the regional plan with local planning and our shared goals around climate, housing, and mobility. And finally, in May, we will present the draft 2021 regional plan and ask that you release it for public review. After we release the draft plan this spring, we will then release a draft environmental impact report for public review and comment. That will happen this summer. We're planning for many opportunities to engage the public this summer and incorporate feedback before we ask you to consider adoption of the 2021 regional plan and to certify the environmental impact report this fall. We really look forward to the dialogue, and thank you. That concludes our presentation, and we look forward to discussing your questions and comments today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I think that was really interesting, and it's inspirational, and I think helps me be a better mayor, because I take these concepts and ways to think about projects and funding and prioritizing back to my own city. So I'm just really grateful for all the visionary work that's being done here at SANDAG. We do have 2 board members with hands up and several public comments. Public comments will need to be cut to 1 minute. So I will quickly call on the board members. If you could make your comments as efficient as possible, that would be great. So Mayor Gloria.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to express my appreciation to staff for what was, I think, a very impressive presentation. I, for one, am excited to start getting to the details of this plan itself, but certainly appreciate the clear presentation of the goals and strategies that are in this plan. I think it's really exciting opportunity for San Diego to address the needs of our commuters, as well as redefine how people get around our collective region. I see this as a transportation blueprint for our region that is equitable, sustainable, and improves the everyday lives of millions of people, as you shared it today, clean, fast, and fair. I also see this as a critical strategy for recovering from COVID-19. And it's more than just getting people around. This is a jobs creator that would fund and build projects that support climate and our housing goals, as well as provide a strategy for more mobility options. A quick question for staff. Colleen, I think I heard you say that your projections for this plan was that it would meet the carbs goal of 19% reduction for GHGs. Do you have a precise number? Does it meet it to 19% per your projections? Does it go beyond that? Can you be specific?
So we have, thank you so much, Vice Chair, Mayor Gloria. This is probably one of those critical things that we need to meet. And all indications are that we're at 19% right there. I must say that other regions throughout the state of California are struggling to meet the 19%. So yes, the model results are 19%. We do think this sets the stage for us to do much more.
So Mayor Gloria, if I may add to what Colleen just said, obviously our goal is much more ambitious than just meeting the goal. And this has to be supported by, models and data. Unfortunately, not everything in the 5 big moves can be run through the models we have or the data we have. And that's what Trey measured when he was talking about big data. Once we have these tools, I think we'll be much clearer. But obviously, our goal is much more ambitious than just the 19%.
I appreciate that ambition, and I think this is important for our board colleagues to keep in mind. We know that certain projects get delayed, certain things get modified, and so I would encourage us to aim as high as we possibly can, recognizing we may fall short. We don't want to fall short of meeting our targets in the state. Look no further than the Del Mar Bluffs to understand what climate change is doing to our region. And again, and lastly, I would say I hope that this work going forward can look to how SANDAG can complement both the county and the city of San Diego's climate action plans. We should be working in cooperation with, as opposed to working in silos. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I see. Okay. Did you want to make a comment, Ray?
Could I please make just a quick comment about the modeling? You know, a lot of the modeling is based on historically the type of transportation system we have. And so when we model forward, we look at how people might shift from one mode to another. Well, a lot of the modes that we are looking at bringing into the region are so revolutionary that they're not really fully included in the model, because you can't really say what would happen if we had a high-speed rail system, for instance, or how flexible fleets would work, because it doesn't exist right now in the data. And so when Hassan speaks about being able to exceed 19%, it's because once we have a system like this, I think we believe truly that we would be able to have many more people use it, because they'll have access to it. It'll be easy to use. It will be app-driven, for instance, and you'll see a much larger shift of mode from single occupancy vehicles to some of these alternatives.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call on the public members to go, because those comments might inform the board member comments. So let's hear from the public. And it's one minute per person.
Thank you. First up is David Grubb.
This is David Grubb, speaking on behalf of the Quality of Life Coalition, representing hundreds of thousands of families, residents, and workers throughout the region, and advocating for an equitable, safe, and healthy transportation system for all communities in our San Diego region. We have submitted a letter in support of 7 outcomes we would like to see from the 2021 Regional Transportation Plan. As we have noted in prior communications, it is imperative to transform our transportation system in San Diego County in a manner that goes above and beyond state targets in climate, social justice, and economic justice, and gives all in our region the clean and healthy environment they deserve, while ensuring high-quality jobs and a world-class transportation network. Some coalition partners will now briefly outline the 7 outcomes the RTP should achieve to support a safe and healthy future for all communities in our San Diego region. We urge the board to hold these priority outcomes as the measures of success against which any draft RTP should be evaluated. Now,
Thank you. Next is B. Mittermiller.
Okay, thank you. Hi, can you hear me? I'm assuming you can. The first outcome which we support is the improvement of public health in disadvantaged communities and the prioritization of transportation and environmental justice. To achieve this, transportation-related pollution levels must be reduced in disadvantaged communities, which have been identified by using the Cal Enviro Screen 3.0. Any new transportation vision must include significant reductions in vehicle miles traveled and rapid electrification of the bus fleet. In addition, new infrastructure should encourage increased physical activity from active transportation and reduce the risk of traffic-related fatalities and injuries for all modes. Finally, analyze health outcomes that are affected by the regional system in each alternative by demographic group. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Noah Harris.
Thanks, Dee. Good morning, board. This is Noah Harris with Climate Action Campaign and a member of the Quality of Life Coalition. In addition to advocating for a system that prioritizes environmental and transportation justice, we are urging for an RTP that exceeds state climate law. Executive Order B5518 calls for carbon neutrality as soon as possible, which climate science says is necessary to stave off the most devastating impacts of the climate crisis. SB 375 only requires SANDAG to achieve 19% GHG reduction, but we believe at least 30% is achievable and needed to stay on track. This RTP must also exceed local cities' climate action plan mode share targets for biking, walking, and transit. Aggressive mode shift towards sustainable alternatives is essential to reduce GHGs and provide safer and more accessible mobility options for all. And our cities need SANDAG's help in meeting their transportation goals. Finally, I urge you to prioritize realignment of transit lines vulnerable to sea level rise and erosion, such as Low Sand, specifically through Del Mar. Now I'll pass it to Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to state for the record, we have 5 remaining public speakers and the public comment period is closed after that. You can go ahead, Nicole Burgess.
Thank you, Noah, and greetings, SANDAG board members. My name is Nicole Burgess, representing Bike SD, where our mission is to establish San Diego as a world-class bicycling city, as well as a member of the Quality of Life Coalition. Creating a world-class bicycling city is a critical component to a successful transit system. And as an advocate for healthy, reliable, and safe transportation plan, I am addressing bullet point number 4 and 5 objectives. To create a rate structure that increases ridership and expands access to mobility. And number 5, to ensure that public transit is safe, comfortable, convenient, and competitive with automobile travel. Youth opportunity passes and safe and comfortable bike and pedestrian access for the last mile connections to transit stations rises loud and clear as a priority. It is time to invest in our youth, their future, and healthy transportation options. The strategies in those bullet points will increase ridership and create healthy options for our residents and our planet. And now roll this over to my colleague, Gretchen.
Thank you. Next is Gretchen Newsom.
Good morning. Again, Gretchen Newsom on behalf of IBW 569, here to coalition letter. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. And that being that the RTP should ensure transportation projects are creating high quality careers in construction through project labor agreements. Major cities, including Seattle and Los Angeles, have employed project labor agreements to promote their commitment to labor stability, apprenticeship, and a diverse local workforce. SANDAG should adopt a project labor agreement with the building trades to create career pathways and a skilled and trained workforce for residents of our local communities, including disadvantaged communities. Now let's hear from our final coalition speaker, Carl Adinger.
Carl, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Carl Aldinger with the Sierra Club San Diego, wrapping up for the Quality of Life Coalition. We also urge you to ensure that transportation projects protect the integrity and contribute to successful implementation of existing and planned multiple species conservation plans. We ask that you ensure projects preserve natural habitats and other ecologically sensitive lands and direct projects away from remote or rural natural lands and into existing developed communities. In closing, we urge you to incorporate each of the aforementioned coalition priorities into the draft RTP coming before you this spring. We are excited about the new leadership and vision here at SANDAG, and that is finally taking the climate crisis seriously, working to advance equity and environmental justice, and moving to prioritize the kind of meaningful transit, biking, and walking investments our region needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Miguel Aguirre.
Yes, hi again. I spoke earlier, but my statement ran long. But at this point, I just want to thank everybody for their presentation, Colleen and Ray. It's very exciting, and also recognize the great work that the Equity Statement Committee did, led by Vivian Moreno. The border really has so much potential. And if there's anything I want to leave people with in mind is that we do need above grade and even below grade infrastructure because of the constrained footprint we have in the top trolley station here in San Diego. There's just no way you can put it all at grade, and it would just displace economic development that could really make the border a strategic hub, economic hub. So I look forward to working with SANDAG and vested by national stakeholders in really refining these narratives. There's much to gain. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last public speaker is Flavio Oliveri.
Hello, my name is Flavio Olivieri. I am a UCSD Research Fellow at the U.S.-Mexico Center and a resident of Chula Vista. Transportation planning should be closely tied to an economic development long-term vision. So we need to apply the adopted equity statement. Inclusive growth and recovery should privilege this. We need a change in paradigm. New transportation infrastructure should not just be to resolve the current inefficiencies of taking people to their jobs, but to facilitate and promote the creation of high value added jobs in their communities, create development hubs, reduce commutes, or even eliminate them. The plan presented is focused on moving people to jobs as it is now, but not creating jobs where the communities are. In San Isidro, this is very relevant and a great opportunity for the entire region, considering the increasing integration with the Baja California economy in more creative industries and high value added jobs. Imagine a Google binational twin campus surrounding the port of entry. Today, the border is the end of the line and not considered as a hub for the mega region.
Okay, that concludes public speakers, I think. Right, Chair, or right, Francesca?
Yes, Chair, it does.
Okay, so we'll go to board member Supervisor Anderson.
Thank you very much. The presentation was outstanding. When they come back with the future presentation, I think on the 12th and later on, I'd be very interested in SANDAG identifying where the green energy is going to be coming from or how we get that green energy. If we continue to build this and not base it on green energy, I think it's disingenuous. And I know at the county, we've taken it very, very seriously, and we're trying to get to zero carbon by 2035. So I would love to see that element. The other issue is it's a different world than when we started this plan. When I look at it, and we look at these areas where we're bringing a lot of people together in close proximity under a pandemic in the future, what would that look like? How would this operate under a pandemic? Would we have the social distancing? Would we have the mask? How would we address it to make sure that we just created a mass transit system that no one's allowed to take? So those two elements I'd really like to see when staff comes back in the future. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Hall.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Obviously, I've been gone for a couple of years, so I'm not as fully up to speed as most of the rest of the board. So I need any and all documentation you have on the 5 bold moves, and I mean all the technical and support documentation. There was a sentence or two said just in the prior conversation by a staff member that there might be some theory involved with this, and this is not all factual as we look to the future. And when I hear statements like that, I have strong concerns. So the amount of money that's being asked for in this is just a ballistic number. And at some point in time, I think reality will set in. So I just need complete documentation so I can come up to speed.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure staff can get that to you. Mayor Huebner.
Yes, thank you. During the virtual orientation that we had last week, which was excellent, it was mentioned instead of the word congestion, but mobility. And I thought, well, that makes some sense because that's pointing toward more choices. And if you look at New York, you look at Paris with really great transit systems, you still see congestion. Yet I was more and more assured that we could actually tackle that congestion issue the more I heard from in this particular presentation. I'm seeing that there are a number of other strategies, et cetera, that are going to hopefully get us there. I would like to see some more metrics, maybe time saved, or also a timeline, like maybe every 5 years, like what are we going to build first, and then what's that going to save in the first 5 years, and then second in the next 10 years, et cetera. Also the data viewer, which is I guess where we can get more details. What was the last time I viewed that? It's oftentimes it stopped, right before Del Mar, and the northern portions were cut off. So I'm hoping that's been improved, and that it's also, many of us have Macs, and if you could make sure that they're readable on Macs, that would be much appreciated. And the other thing I'm curious about is flexible fleets in the rural area. How is that going to work? So maybe in future presentations, given the time that we have right now, where it's already 12:11. But thank you very much. It was a great presentation, and I'm really hopeful for this great vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you. I'll be as short as possible. I know we're going to have many more conversations about this, but I do just want to, I'm a farmer. I want to plant some seeds, and hopefully they'll grow before our next meetings on this very important topic. But I believe in order for this plan to have as much success as possible, this body must have access to the draft EIR prior to staff's presentation of components. I believe that we're fully capable of familiarizing ourselves with the draft regional plan, and this will allow those future staff presentations to be that much more productive. So I would ask staff to release those documents to this body as soon as possible, and to have no delays in doing so. So it's seconding what Mayor Hall brought up. I also want to point out that we're moving in an exciting direction, a big direction, and it appears that we're the tip of the spear on some of these items, and that's exciting. And as we dig more into this, we're going to see numbers and cost and financial analysis and those sort of dynamics. But I just want to say that when transportation and energy costs go up in order to mitigate GHG and sea level rise, it's the low income communities of color that are the most impacted financially. And this could potentially hinder the goals of our equity statement. And that must be taken into consideration with respect to moving forward on these plans. Lastly, I want to touch base on housing. And, one of our items in the big moves is alignment with state, regional, and local planning. And it's this top-down approach that we are following suit with. And in order for some of those state level dynamics to change, legislation has to be put through. And I think there's an opportunity here in San Diego to try to influence what those state level policies look like. Housing prices here in California have never been this high in our history, as we all know. And so when we talk about affordable housing and we talk about RHNA, which is what I want to end with, and I'll wrap this up pretty quickly. I believe, and so do many others, that RHNA in and of itself, which starts at the state, comes down, we just follow suit, we allocate our numbers. It has many flaws because it frames our housing needs on population and housing growth rather than prices. And so by doing that, what RHNA is doing is it's asking cities to plan to build 10 times more houses and affordable units than there's government subsidy, because affordable housing units must be brought together with a government subsidy. And I'll give you an example. On the 5th cycle here in California, covering 2013 through this year, it was estimated that California would need over 665,000 income restricted units. That's 80,000 affordable units per year. A report from the Legislative Analysis Office noted that the Low Income Housing Tax Credit, LIHTC program, which is the primary subsidy used for low income housing, is only able to fund 7,000 units per year. So there is a gross lack of subsidy to tie and match up with the expectations on a state level. So as we move into this plan and we really take a look at infill development and you know, the needs of our area, we really have to think outside the box and attempt to influence our state to approach housing differently. And I'm going to end with this. By framing housing needs in terms of population and household growth rather than prices in the existing market, RHNA steers policymakers away from the logically obvious but politically inconvenient point that housing production should be concentrated in places where housing is most expensive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Hi, thank you so much for that really excellent presentation. I just wanted to take a moment to comment on one thing that I think often gets lost when we talk about these big priority projects. And it's just really important that we prioritize integrating our local skilled labor force into the project planning and phasing. We really need to think about the relationship between project requirements and sequencing and local labor availability in order to ensure continuity of employment. You know, really thinking through how local workers can not only share in the benefits of our infrastructure investments, but can build sustainable careers meeting our region's infrastructure needs. So I wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank staff for their extraordinary work, but also to put on their radar the importance of considering labor availability as we think about projects and the projects that we're putting forth.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Jones.
Okay, I'm cutting my comments down. Okay, so there was some discussion that the plan will be faster, cleaner, and fairer, but it's not actually a plan. It's a concept. So I just want us to all be very clear about that. We need data. We need studies that prove all of the targets will be met and that it will actually do what we want it to do. Another thing that I'd like to bring up that we really need to be very clear on is how will we make sure that the costs are for the entire lifetime through 2035 of actually implementing the plan, because we have always historically found ourselves falling short to pay for these projects, which then we're scrambling and we're stealing from another project. I don't mean stealing, but, you know, taking from another project to finish projects. We just don't want to have that anymore. So we need full transparency on our funding issues and how we're going to get that done. And then I'll leave it at that. I don't want to belabor all the other points. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kranz.
Yes, good morning. I would like to express my thanks to Hassan and Colleen and Ray for the efforts that they put into this. Back in October, they showed up at a board meeting at NCTD and made a presentation of the earlier drafts of the 5 big moves, and NCTD staff and board members provided some feedback, and based upon what we're seeing today, it appears that they have incorporated much of our feedback from that meeting. So again, I want to thank the efforts of staff there at SANDAG. I'm a transit geek and I love to see big, bold plans, and really, you know, the idea that we could one day achieve the goal of being able to move people efficiently and effectively in our region is one that I'm glad to see us working towards. So again, thank you to staff, and we look forward to continuing the process of evaluating, doing the environmental analysis that is necessary to prove this plan is going to achieve the goals that we need it to. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Shu.
Because of our time limit, and I also want to honor some equity. So I'm going to limit my comments to 1 minute since we'll be talking about this in the future. First of all, you know, our people who gave our comments were really limited in what they could say. I encourage everyone to read the letter from the Quality of Life Coalition, which really delineates all their points. I think we need to take them in heart and work with them as best we can. The 30% limit or reduction is really something that we have to take seriously. 19% is absolutely inadequate if we just do the math. And lastly, to answer some of my fellow board members with regards to their concerns on data and cost, let's really be practical. We have data. We know what we've been doing for the past few decades is wrong. We know the bullet cost of transportation and health inequities that are going on now. We know the real cost of urban sprawl and how it hurts affordable housing opportunities close to our urban areas where we don't have to have as much transportation infrastructure. Let's get real. We need to change where we're moving. We don't need 5 big moves so much as 1 big move. We need to move away from what we have been doing for the past few decades, which is hurting our housing problems, hurting our environment, and costing our economy greatly. Let me give you one last bit of data to work with. For every dollar you spend on gasoline, 80 to 90% of it leaves our region. For every dollar you spend on transit, 80% stays in our region. For that reason alone, we need to forget about expanding our roadways as soon as we can. We need to do that now and move these 5 big moves, the big move, to go away from where we have been going in the past. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year again.
Okay, thank you. Well, it looks like we've made it. I want to again thank staff for the very big lift here. You're clearly passionate about this topic, and it's great to see that. And I'm really excited about the new direction that we're headed. So we will adjourn this meeting until our next meeting on February 26th at 9 a.m. We are adjourned.